Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polar Craft Boats, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Garber Chevrolet, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine radio show here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. How are you doing? How you doing? How was your week since we last talked? Have you had a chance to do anything fun, to enjoy the weather? Boy, we've had a lot of rain. A lot of rain in the past week in my neck of the woods. How about yours? Good for the food plots, though, right? Oh, it's an interesting time of year because we can feel summertime slipping away. Cooler nights, shorter days. You either find that very sad or you find it exciting. Maybe you're kind of excited to have the kids go back to school. Maybe get them out of your hair for a while. And I know you say that with love. Listen, as a parent and grandparent, I get that. I get that completely. I haven't been doing much, I got to be honest, as far as outdoor passions. I actually haven't been out on the angler quest in a week and a half now. I wonder if she misses me as much as I miss her. I'm jonesing. We were supposed to do a river cruise with some friends, but Mother Nature kind of, at least it looks like, is going to put the kibosh to that. But listen, we're used to dealing with Mother Nature. I don't care if it's fishing or hunting or cruising or whatever. We deal with what Mother Nature gives us. Normally this time of year, I would be up in White River, Ontario, Canada on a bear hunt. I went up there in the springtime this year. I did that for family reasons. My daughter Shelby is getting married in just a couple of weeks. I didn't think it would be a good idea, and this is an understatement. I didn't think it would be prudent or smart to take a week off and go to the wilds of Ontario on a bear hunt 2 weeks before the wedding. So I went up there in the springtime. But I have been following their activities. I've been watching online as my friends are checking in from up there, and they're doing pretty well. Seems like a good bear crop this year. Also, excitement here in Michigan coming up for the Michigan bear season. I am not bear hunting this year. I only put in for a point. I do expect that next year I will be back hunting with the bear whisperer, Johnny Bowler, up in the Seney area. Looking forward to that. Deer season. Well, okay. Salmon fishing going on right now. A lot of people over primarily on the west side of the state chasing silverfish. I always get a kick out of this. You go west to fish silver. You go east to fish gold. Think about that. There's a lot of truth to it. The silverfish, the salmon, Lake Michigan, the goldfish, Lake Erie, Lake St. Clair, Saginaw Bay. It does make a lot of sense. So deer season prep too. A lot of people putting in food plots right now. Mother Nature has kind of cooperated for that, right? You want some rain to get those food plots off to a good start. The youth hunt is coming up not too far away, right? I will be out there with my grandson Carter. My good friend Scott is graciously allowing us access to his beautiful piece of property. We've got a Wraith 270 see-through blind up on a platform over a food plot. I know Carter's excited for that. I am as well. It's time to put some more venison in the freezer. We had some venison chili the other night, and I was looking at that going, yeah, our venison burger's just about over. What we do have is a bunch of brats and hunter sticks from Michigan brand from my Ontario bear from last spring. By the way, last Wednesday night, we did a Wednesday night live at the Michigan brand plant in Bay City. If you want to get a behind-the-scenes look at how they make those products, check that out. That's on my Facebook page. That's on my YouTube channel as well. Just go to past videos, past live videos. You can check that out. Last year on the youth hunt, it was interesting because my grandson Carter did shoot a big, beautiful doe with a Brenton 350 Legend first thing in the morning. And as part of the experience, he had to be involved in, let's say, field processing that animal. You know, there's another term we use that is a little bit more graphic, but I'll say for broadcast terms, field processing. All right, gutting. Yeah, they gut the animal. I cannot make myself buy into the whole politically correct concept. So I'll go with terms that we're all familiar with. And we used my Rapid River knife for that. And Scott said, man, you got a good edge on this thing, Avery. I mean, at the time I had it razor sharp. Well, Chris Durson from Rapid River, when I asked him this, I say, you know, what's the key to keeping a knife sharp? He says, keep it sharp. Don't let it get dull. Touch it up every once in a while. He likes I think the term is, it's not strapping. I think it's stropping. When you use a piece of leather, you can even use an old belt, and just use the leather to break down the little burrs that form on the edge of the knife. Use that to break it down. And I haven't been doing a very good job of that, and I let my knife get dull. And I'm embarrassed. A dull knife it's still a tool, but it's not a very valuable tool. In some ways, that was the sound of my knife opening it, by the way. In some ways, I think a dull knife is more dangerous than a sharp knife. But what I need to do now is concentrate on putting an edge back on this thing. Now, I could run back up to the Rapid River shop, their showroom, and they would touch it up and they would make it razor sharp again. In the meantime, though, I gotta put an edge on this thing. Sharpening a knife is a skill. It's an art. My dad could do it. My dad could put a knife on a whetstone and boom, done. I have never had that skill. I've never developed that skill. The closest I've come is using a sharpening system called a Lansky, and there are others out there like it. But what it does is it's got a series of stones, and they have rods that attach to the end of those stones, and there's a jig that lets you choose the angle of edge that you want to put on there. But more importantly, what it does is it allows you to keep a consistent angle, and that's the key. Whatever angle you choose is to keep a consistent angle on both sides of the knife so you don't roll the edge over. Some people can do that by hand. I cannot. The thing that I have been involved in, and it's the closest I've come to hunting or fishing. I've been on vole patrol. Our yard, a few weeks ago, we found was just infested with voles. Not moles, voles. And these things are absolutely disgusting little big mouse-like critters that eat your lawn. And they create tunnels, and they create they create runways. And so what I have done is I have established a trap line. I'm now a trapper. And I go out every morning and I check the trap line. And it's actually quite rewarding. I see why you folks who are true trappers enjoy it so much. There's a certain amount of satisfaction in setting a trap and catching a pesky critter in that thing. At last count, I was up to 25. Boy, Avery, you had a problem. Yeah, we did. We had a lot of them. So that's about all I've been doing in the outdoors. Wednesday night lives. I do them every Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. As I say, last week we were live at the Michigan brand plant in Bay City. Check that out. That's on my social media outlets. Also my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address, Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Use that to send me your Ask Avery questions. Now, I came into the studio today without a formal Ask Avery question in mind. But what I did was, as I was doing a behind the mic live stream here in the studio before we started to record, I threw the concept out. I threw the question out, give me your Ask Avery questions. Well, we came up with a good 3 or 4 of them, and I will be using those in the show coming up later here in the show. Now, after the break on this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show, Jason Carstens of True North Guide Service will join me to talk about fishing the St. Mary's River for Atlantic salmon. I don't know if Jason has a bear tag this year or not. We'll talk about that and more. Then Paul Pirone of Versa Skins. Versa Skins will be at the big Woods and Water show the first weekend after Labor Day. They'll be at booth, I think, 30, but more details on that. In our second hour, a guy named Kyle Green. He's a young guy, but man, is he making a name for himself in the outdoor television industry. Their show has just been, well, they're going on the History Channel. History Channel's bigger than the Outdoor Channel, exponentially. We'll talk about that and more, and an event that they have coming up to celebrate that. Then Nick Green of MUCC. I've got to talk more about this terrible situation going on in Lansing right now, in Washington right now, with funding for hunter education, for trap shooting. It's terrible. We'll talk about that. And in our third hour, Paul Schlafley of Riverside Charters talking about fishing Lake Michigan salmon this time of year. And we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire, Chef Dave Minar. So we've got a good rundown, good guest, good information, and I'm glad you're with us right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Battle Creek on WBCK 95.3 FM. You can hear us in Traverse City on WTCM 580 AM and north of the bridge in Iron Mountain, WMIQ 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by the Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Linwood Beach can be your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing destination and your Mid-Michigan tracker and Angler Quest and Polar Craft headquarters. Great facilities, beautiful launch, close to the fishing grounds, great service, gas dock, campground. I can't say enough about Linwood Beach. And as we get closer to that time of year when some boaters start to put their boat away, Linwood Beach can help you out with that as well. LinwoodBeachMarina.com is the website, LinwoodBeachMarina.com. Last time I saw our first guest for this week's show was at the Linwood Beach Marina. But Jason Carstens is not a Saginaw Bay guy. He is a Sault Ste. Marie guy. He is a St. Mary's River guy. He is a True North Guide Service guy. And he likes to fish Atlantics. And he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Jason, welcome back. How you doing, buddy?
Good morning. I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm doing good, but I haven't been fishing lately. I'm jonesing. I suspect you have been on the water.
I have been. Actually prepping the boat this morning to take the family out. We're going to go have some fun and chase some Atlantics.
Rub it in. Just rub it in. But that sounds like a great trip.
Oh, any day on the water is a good day, but we're going to go have some fun, and we're going to get some sore arms.
And your girls, those two little girls of yours are just, they're just, boy, they love the outdoors so much. You've done such a great job of instilling that passion. I can see it in the pictures that you post. Very nice.
Well, thank you. We have a lot of fun. They are my hunting and fishing buddies, and we try to make the most of every day and show them what's out there. So,
well, and you live in
a lot of fun. What's that?
I'm sorry to cut you off. I didn't mean to do that. And you live in a great part of our state to take advantage of that.
We do. We're up here in Sault Ste. Marie in the UP, and there's a little bit of everything up here. And if it's not right here, it's not too far away. So it's a lot of fun.
I know you're also a bear hunter. Did you get a tag this year, Jason?
I did not. I just applied for a point this year, so I'm waiting, and we're keeping our fingers crossed. We're building some points up for the girls right now, and hoping to do a bear hunt with them. So.
Oh, nice. I guess we're a little off topic here, but I'm curious now. There is no minimum age to deer hunt. There's no minimum age to bear hunt anymore, is there?
Now you're putting me on the spot.
Well, and I don't mean to do that. I don't think there is. So we'll leave it at that because a few years ago we got rid of the minimum hunting age in Michigan, and I think that was a wonderful move.
Yeah, my wife has been building points up for a bear hunt that we're going to do out at our camp, which is actually on Drummond Island. So we're figuring in a few years we're gonna do a family hunt. She's gonna gift it to one of the girls. We're gonna have to pick straws. That ought to be interesting. So, but we're gonna do a family bear hunt out there. So that's our hope.
So you're fishing Atlantics on the St. Mary's, and you got a camp on Drummond Island. Man, you're living the true Yooper dream.
Hey, you got to make the most out of every day, and we have fun.
Tell me about now. Aside from just taking the girls, though, you also you're a fishing guide. You're a charter captain. You take people out to enjoy that resource, right?
Oh yeah, I really do it for the enjoyment of trying to show people kind of some new fishing techniques and just some different fish that aren't kind of the norm. I really enjoy fishing for these Atlantic salmon, which are actually raised here at Lake Superior State University and released right here in the St. Mary's River. They're now expanding with the DNR and starting to release them down towards your neck of the woods in Lake Huron in a few different areas. And they're really starting to take off, and it's fun. They're definitely a different silver fish from the West Coast Pacific salmon variety that we have in the Great Lakes.
So do those Atlantics, when they're released there in the river, do they stay in the river their whole life, or do they take off and run the Great Lakes and come back?
A little bit of both. We definitely have some residents that will stay here year-round. I would say the majority of them do go and migrate out into Lake Huron. And every year I hear of Atlantic salmons being caught down like around Traverse City area. So they are migrating into Lake Michigan now as well. Obviously not that common, but most of them are around in Lake Huron. But they definitely do travel. This year I've done most of my guide trips down in Lake Huron, actually trolling for them, which is kind of been refreshing from getting away from some of the stuff here in the St. Mary's River, but it's still my love and my back door to fish here as well.
So when you're trolling for Atlantics, do you target them differently than you would other salmon?
A little bit. Atlantic salmon tend to like a little bit warmer water, and a lot of times I'm fishing for them just under the surface, not unlike trolling for, say, steelhead. But you'll catch Atlantic salmon while we're catching Pacific salmon as well. So they're mixed right in, but typically they're up a little bit higher. A lot of times I'm just trolling with lead core.
And spoons?
Yes, lead core and spoons. Yep.
And if you get an Atlantic on, is it obvious right away? Do they fight differently than say, a king would?
Yes, very much so. Oftentimes, you will see the fish leaping into the air before you even know which rod it's on. And they put on an aerial show. They are a lot of fun and create a lot of havoc. I had a charter earlier this summer, and I had a nice Atlantic on, or my client had a nice Atlantic on, and it went sideways and tangled 3 lead cores on the opposite side of the boat. And there was nothing we could do, and we ended up we got it. We ended up hand lining the fish in. So they are a challenging fish and a lot of fun. They never disappoint.
They seem kind of like a cross between a king and a steelhead, then.
Yeah, I would not dispute that. They got the attitude of a king, and they are much more trout-like than salmon-like as far as they're opportunistic feeders. They will eat on mayflies and caddisflies, and then they're eating gobies, and they're eating smelt, and they are very opportunistic.
If you had somebody holding a king on one side of the boat and an Atlantic on the other side, would it be obvious that they're a different fish?
Yes. For me, yes. But they're not very hard to distinguish apart from each other, in that the Atlantics have a very aerodynamic head. Some people don't. Some people say that their heads are not the most beautiful. They're very small head. They're built for speed, and I think that's why they jump so much. But they also have a marking on their back, unlike the king salmon, where king salmon will have spots, and the Atlantics will actually have traditionally it's called like an X marking. And if you look at it, their scale marking on their skin is actually little cross X patterns. So they're pretty easily identifiable.
So could the casual observer confuse them with a big brown then because of that X on there?
That's the closest fish that often gets confused with, if it's a Great Lakes brown or if it's an Atlantic. So, yes.
How are they on the grill, or how are they eaten?
They're wonderful table fare. They're probably our preferred. You can cook them or smoke them up any way you like. We definitely enjoy them.
So I don't hear a downside to these fish at all, these Atlantics.
The only downside, in my opinion, to them is that we're not stocking enough of them because the fishing's getting so popular. The fishing pressure is increasing tremendously, and I'd like to see them stocked throughout the state. Not that I want it to not be a destination or special place here in the St. Mary's River, but I think that these are the wave of the future for our salmon up here. They don't stock Pacific salmon here around the St. Mary's River anymore, and so this has really become our salmon. We used to have big Pacific salmon tournaments, and we don't have those anymore, and I really think that this is kind of the wave of the future, as good as they are inhabiting our waters.
So, if I'm stammering here because I'm trying to figure out where to go next because we've only got a couple of minutes left here, but suffice it to say, the pressure. You talk about more fishing pressure. Has that forced you to change how you target these fish, or where? Have you had to drop back away from this dam that's so famous, fish them downriver or out in the big lake now, like you're talking about?
Yeah, definitely. I love fishing behind our dam and here in Sault Ste. Marie. There's definitely some obstacles because there's only so many areas to fish for them there in that unique fishery. But you can target them in so many different ways. That's the one beauty, is that there's freedoms. You don't have to go and fish them one certain way. And so oftentimes it might just be the weather that's going to dictate what you're going to do. If you're going to go out in the big lake and troll, or if you're going to stick around in the river and be in a little bit more protected area. We also have the Sault Ste. Marie locks construction going on right now. And so that has limited some of our access to some of our fishing areas. So it's kind of forced us to learn some new techniques as well, which is nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that. Jason, hang tight. We're talking with Jason Carstens of True North Guide Service. You can find him on Facebook as True North Guide Service. Talking with him about fishing the St. Mary's River, fishing the Big Lake for Atlantics, but I also want to talk with him about some other things as well. Pink salmon, I mean, is this the year for a run, or does that even matter anymore? We talked about how he trolls those fish in the Big Lake. What about how he targets them in the river? It's a wonderful fishery. It's a unique fishery. Jason has it dialed in. I would encourage you to get in touch with him. True North Guide Service on Facebook. More after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. Are you hearing me? Okay, there we go. You can hear the little technical glitch here in the studio. You can. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Alpena on WZTK 105.7 FM. You can hear us in Port Huron, WPHM 1380 AM, and north of the bridge in Escanaba, WCHT 600 AM 95.3 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Boning Archery. Michigan-based Boning, a leader in the archery industry for more than 3/4 of a century. Think of how impressive that is. To be in business for that long, but not just be in business, to be a leader in your field for that long. You know, the company started out with Ferrite to glue broadheads to arrow shafts. These days, just a ton of products, new manufacturing processes, state-of-the-art. Check out their website, boning.com. That's BOHNING.com, boning.com. I would suspect, as you are getting ready for the fall hunting season, you have some boning product somewhere on your rig. If not, check them out. Also, for target archers, they do a good job there as well. Boning, BOHNING.com, boning.com. While you are online, please check out my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Then head out over to Facebook and check out True North Guide Service. That's the company of Jason Carstens, who is a fishing guide, a charter captain, based in the Sioux. And let's talk about the Sioux a little bit in the St. Mary's River, Jason. You say it's getting a lot of attention these days. Is that because of those Atlantics? Is that why people are looking at the river more than they have in the past?
I think so. I think the popularity of being able to fish for salmon in, I'm going to say not big water, not out in the Great Lakes, but in a river system in the summertime has definitely, has definitely opened up more opportunities and extended people's seasons that may not have a big boat.
And you actually fly fish for them?
Primarily, yes. That's my preferred method. That's really kind of my passion. But you can cast for them with traditional gear. You can troll for them. You can jig for them. It's really endless. It comes down to what's your preference and how you want to try to target them.
I've seen video of your girls throw a fly, and they are experts. I am not. Could I come up there with you and still fly fish? Do you have to be an expert to catch them on a fly rod?
Absolutely. I want to bring you and take you out. It's actually easier often if you don't have any experience, because I can kind of teach you a method that works particularly for this area. It's not a traditional fly fishing in many senses, but we can also do a more traditional if that's the route that you want to go. So no, it's not a hard technique. My girls have a unfair height advantage because they're much lower down to make these low profile casts. So I often hear that they make it look so easy.
Do you catch? Okay, we got a bad slider there. There we go. We good, Charlie? Or you want to switch mics? Or?
Oh, I think I lost you, Mike. You there? Hello.
Yeah, hang take. There we go. We had to switch mics. We got a bad pot or a bad slider. Do you catch other fish while you're after these Atlantics? I mean, do you catch pinks? Do you catch monster walleye there in the river?
Excuse me. We do catch walleye primarily towards dark, but there in the St. Mary's, there's over 80 different species of game fish in there, and you see it all. Most commonly, we catch whitefish mixed in with the Atlantics, and that's all summer long. We're getting close right now to getting towards fall, and so we're going to start seeing a few natural chinook salmon that are still in the river system, but more importantly, we're going to see pink salmon. And this should be a big run for pink salmon. They run kind of they say they run heavy every other year, and this should be a heavier year. So those will start showing up here in September. And but I mean, we see muskie, we see sturgeon.
Wow.
Is not a common thing to see them while you're fishing for these lines.
Do you consider
You never
those?
know.
Do you consider those pinks to be a game fish, or are they just a nuisance?
I love them. They are a riot to catch. They fight like little bulldogs for only being, probably 1 to 3 pounds. In the fly fishing world, I'm usually using a 7-weight fly rod for these Atlantics, and I will use these the same rods for the pink salmon when I do target the pink salmon, and they're fighting almost as hard as the Atlantics. So a lot of times when I'm using my fly presentations, I'm actually using 2 flies for these Atlantics, so I can cover 2 different depths. And it's happened many times where I've actually had 2 pink salmon on at the same time because they kind of come in wolf packs, and that's quite challenging when you get 2 fish just not wanting to go in the same direction.
It sounds like a lot of fun, Jason. You've got a great fishery there on the St. Mary's River. I would encourage people to go to your Facebook page, True North Guide Service on Facebook. True North Guide Service on Facebook. Check him out. He's a great guy, a great angler, and you'll have a lot of fun. Paul Pirone of VersaSkins after the break. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Caro on WKYO 1360 AM and WIDL 92.1 FM. You can hear us in Lansing on WILS 1320 AM, and you can hear us in the Sioux on News Talk 1400 WKNW. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Killer Food Plots. It is the time of year to be putting in your food plots. I think Killer Food Plots a great choice to help you out. Company owner Rich Krazan does just a great job. He's a great resource. Go to their website, killerfoodplots.com, killerfoodplots.com, whether you just want consultation, whether you want them to come out and work up the ground, put in your seeds yourself, whether you just want the seeds. Killer Food Plots, I think, is a great resource. And again, the website, killerfoodplots.com. Killer Food Plots is a Michigan-based, family-owned company. I have a soft spot in my heart for Michigan-based, family-owned companies, including VersaSkins. Just change your skin for the season you're in. You've heard me talk about VersaSkins every week. I wear VersaSkins. It's getting to be the fall hunting season just around the corner. You know what else is just around the corner? The big Woods and Water Outdoor Weekend coming up the first weekend after Labor Day, and Paul Pirone of VersaSkins will be there, but he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Paul, welcome back. How are you?
I'm doing great, Mike. Thanks for having me. Good morning.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. So how are things going in your world? I got to believe you're getting real busy ramping up for this fall season.
Yeah, we are. We're starting to turn the corner here from summer, and people are starting to get the itch. And so we're starting to see some good activity. And we're excited to get into the fall season here and get some more VersaSkins out into the hands of our hunters.
What booth are you at out there, Paul?
We're in booth 317.
317.
This is our, I think it's 317. This is our 5th year at Woods and Water, and we're kind of a repeat customer, and it's a really good show to be at.
And it's a really good place for people to be able to see your product in person. You know, they hear me talk about it, they see it online, but at this show, you can pick it up, you can put it on, you can talk to you, Paul Pirone, and other VersaSkins people, and really get a good feel for what the company and the concept is all about.
That's right, because we're not in stores, as you know, Mike. We are online only, and that helps us keep our costs down. We can pass those savings right on to our consumers, and we have every size ready to go. You can take the product with you, or we can ship it to you, but you can touch it, feel it, try it on. We have a trailer there, so you can try on the pants, the jacket, whatever you need.
You know what else I like, Paul? You know, you talk about having product there in different sizes. I love the fact that you offer big sizes.
Yes. Yep, we do. We figured that out a couple of years ago when people were coming by and And these are just, big people that want, 4, 5, and 6X. And they've been wearing the same product since the 70s because nobody makes that anymore in the hunting realm. So we introduced the 4, 5, and 6X clothing a couple years ago, and we sell out every year, Mike. And we've made some really good friends, and it's good to see the bigger size hunters wearing the Versa Skins line.
And I think, correct me if I'm wrong here, Paul, too, don't you have a sale going on the weekend of the show?
We do. We always have a big sale, 30% off everything we own. So, come by and see us, and it's a good way to get into the Versa Skins product.
It seems, when I look at the concept of Versa Skins, again, just change your skin for the season you're in. Snap on and zip on an outer shell to change your camo pattern. It seems like such common sense. It's one of those things like, man, why didn't somebody come up with this before? How did you come up with it, Paul?
I wanted to start hunting in the snow for geese, late season geese. And I just wanted to find something that I could pull over my existing clothing, jacket and pant. And there really wasn't nothing out there. There's the cheaper plastic type ponchos, but they just don't work very good. So I was just looking through the magazines and looking at the different stores and thought it'd be nice to have something that just fit right over top of you, where you can get to your pockets, get to your phone, get to your calls, keep your hands warm in your pockets, whatever. And there just wasn't anything out there. So, through some drawings and some more research, we came up with the Versa Skins idea. We took us about 2.5 years to patent it. We are still the only one out there that does this. It is it's a great way to save money, and the skins fit like a glove, and we offer all the different seasons.
No small task getting a company like this off the ground, I'm sure.
It took a blood, sweat, and tears, a lot of years. It took us a long time to get it going. This is our 6th selling season. By the grace of God, we are in 28 states and Canada. We just received our Canadian patent this year as well. So, we're moving slowly but surely. The word's getting out, and, through guys like you, Mike, and your show, and then word of mouth and social media, we're making our way around the country.
Well, keep up the good work, Paul. You'll be at booth 317 at the Woods and Water Show the first weekend after Labor Day. Look for the big sale if you need big sizes. Versa Skins is the place to go. The website, versaskins.com. Versaskins.com. If you stop by the booth, tell them you heard him on the Mike Avery Show on the Outdoor Magazine Show. Good luck to you, Paul. You and I will talk again soon.
Thanks, Mike. God bless.
All righty. Paul Pirone of Versa Skins, versaskins.com. We'll take a break for the top of the hour. When we come back, Kyle Green of the Greenway Outdoors TV show. This Michigan kid, took a concept and he put a show on the History Channel. That's a big, big deal. That and more in Hour 2 of Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polar Craft Boats, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Garber Chevrolet, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to our number 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. I know you're sick of hearing me say this, that this is first and foremost a radio show. It is recorded, it is produced, it is syndicated, it is uploaded, it is distributed as a radio show. And I think the best way to listen, if you can, is on your local AM or FM station. If you can't, isn't it nice to know that there's a podcast version of the show that is indeed available? You can hear the podcast on my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. It's on my Facebook page. It's on Amazon Music, Audible, Twitter, LinkedIn, Apple Music, Google Play, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, Player FM, Deezer, Odyssey, and even YouTube. I know, but it's an audio podcast. It's not a video podcast. So, Avery, what are you doing putting it on YouTube? I don't know. It just seemed the thing to do. And people listen to it or watch it or whatever on YouTube every week. I do like podcasting a lot, though. I think podcasting is a great way to get the word out, to get your message out. In fact, each month I do podcasts for offshore tackle, Angler Quest boats, Primal Outdoors, and Polar Craft boats. In fact, by the time you hear this radio show, the new Polar Craft podcast will be available for your download, featuring Amy and Greg DeCavers talking about their fishing as a couple, their fishing as parents, grandparents taking their kids out there in the Polar Craft, and it's a very nice conversation. I would encourage you to check that out. Regardless, though, if you're hearing my voice on the radio show or the podcast, I do certainly appreciate it. I wouldn't be able to do this without, number one, I believe, a blessing from God. Secondly, your support. I've been doing this a long time, as the intro to the show said, some 40 years. And during those 4 decades, I have been able to reach a certain level of success. I had a TV show for many years, got out of TV, but even at its peak, my TV show was on broadcast stations here in Michigan and the Outdoor Channel. I never dreamed of reaching a level of success that my show would be on the History Channel. I mean, I watch the History Channel. I love the History Channel. The shows there are just absolute top quality, entertaining, very well done. But there's a Michigan guy, a young Michigan guy, his name is Kyle Green, who has been able to make a name for himself, make a mark for himself in the world of outdoor television. And I'm going to say not in the traditional hook and bullet category, but in an educational and informative and entertaining way. Kyle Green is with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line to talk more about this. Kyle, welcome back to the show, and congrats on this whole History Channel gig.
Thank you. That was probably one of the most sincere, kindest introductions I've ever had, and I thank you for it. And hearing you say it has a special feeling to it for me because, I looked up to you for so many years. Like you said, you've been on the radio for 40 years. Well, my entire life growing up, when my dad and I got, in the truck in the morning to go to the hunting blind or whatever we were doing, it was your voice that I would hear over the radio. And I kind of always dreamed that one day I'd get to be on your show. And to have you say all that, I really appreciate it.
Well, it's my pleasure, and I do really mean it. Kyle, how did this all... Well, first of all, tell me, is the show on the History Channel now, or is it slated for this fall, or what?
So actually, this is actually the first radio show I'm able to say it. I'm going to be rolling out a bunch of graphics and stuff on socials and finally doing the big announcement. But September 2nd is the premiere date. So it's going to be at 9 a.m. Every Saturday on History Channel, and also 9:30 because we have 2 episodes back-to-back each week, brand new every week. So there'll be 2 episodes back-to-back for the month of September and 10 episodes in the series. And, again, September 2nd. And it's in the outdoor block with a lot of the shows you were mentioning, Mountain Men, Swamp People, Duck Dynasty, Alone. Those types of shows are all in there with us. But they're kind of in their repeat seasons and will be coming out kind of as the new show.
Kyle, when you mentioned the shows that you're surrounded there, I mean, this is the top of the industry. And it goes beyond just, like I say, the hook and bullet Outdoor Channel stuff. How did you make this happen? How did this happen?
Well, just like you said, God was involved in all of your movements as you grew throughout the industry, and it kind of was that way for us. But it was the clear distinct goal that we had since day one, and we've been working on this project for 7 years before we finally got this call. And we've been told no 680 times. And if you came to our office, we have a lot of the 680 is no made-up number, not either. If you look at our office, we've got printed out copies of some of the meanest no's we've ever had as motivation up around the office. But it was the clear, distinct goal forever from the time we started was we wanted to be on a mainstream network, something that had really never been done before, except possibly Meat Eater being on Netflix was probably the only one that's ever made it to that level. And the goal was we wanted to be independently produced. So I never wanted to succumb to being owned by a production company that told me what I was going to say, told me what I was going to do, because then that would ruin the mission. The real goal is to sell more hunting and fishing licenses and teach this new audience, this new generation, Generation Z and millennials, how important hunting, fishing, and hands-on conservation is. And the reason why there's more deer in North America right now than ever recorded history is because of the sale of hunting and fishing licenses, because people doing conservation work. And if you want animals, you got to hunt and fish for them. And we want to teach people that, but also make them laugh and also educate them. But the distinct goal is I don't want to talk to the same people in the industry over and over again. I want to bring new people in. So that means we have to make our show look different. It has to be the top-level production quality. It has to have good storylines. It has to have these things that are real, but it has to have those elements in order to draw that audience in. And it took 7.5 years before we finally got a yes from a major network. And it wasn't easy, but I have the exact same team with me since day one, and these guys wake up every day trying to figure out how to improve and get better. And they're just obsessed. I mean, we live, sleep, breathe, and eat it, and that's the only reason why we were able to scratch and claw. To be honest with you, it still doesn't feel real. It feels fake. Like, I envisioned it for so long, 8 years, every morning telling myself this is going to happen, every night telling myself this is going to happen. Now that it's here, it doesn't feel real.
Oh, man, that's a great story. That makes me smile just hearing that. And I also love to hear about your mission statement, promoting hunting and fishing and shooting and trapping and the North American conservation ethic, selling fishing licenses, selling hunting licenses. This is something I talk about all the time, Kyle, but to hear it from a guy your age, you're a young guy. This is very refreshing and very encouraging to me.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and I mean, again, I learned that message from you growing up. So you planted the seed that's growing to this, and it's just, I just truly believe that reaching the audience that you reached, which was me and everyone above me too, I mean, you helped build the industry to what it is today and retain that audience. And now I've had to look at it. I looked at the way you've done it and the way you built it to what it is. And now I kind of got to carry that torch and assess the next age group and figure out how to get it to them. And it's just at the end of the day, there are some hot buttons. People really want to know where their food comes from now, which is great. And COVID kind of had a lot to do with that, because when the grocery store chains were going down and stuff, it really sparked people's interest. Eating organic and eating healthy, as we know wild game is really important to people now. And if you can create a really high production quality show that looks like National Geographic level, then people will respond to it. But you also have to entertain them. You got to show them how to cook. And we've kind of brought all those elements in to try and reach that audience. And we're doing well now, and I'm very excited about it. But again, it's just, we know it can go away at any time, so we just have to keep grinding to continue to improve so that we can continue to hit that audience. And that's what wakes us up right now.
Yeah, that's an interesting comment you just made right there too, about it can go away at any time. Now that is true of anything in life, right? We know that, but I will tell you this. Here's some advice from an old guy, and I don't even know if I'm qualified to give you advice with what you're doing, but yeah, it's a fickle business. It's a fickle industry. And just when you think you've got it figured out, there'll be a change in leadership. There'll be a change in people, and you got to start all over again. And loyalty may or may not play the role that it should. So I know you're aware of that, but just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, it's just, navigating the waters too. A lot of the networks, like I said, those emails that are printed out are some of the meanest things you've ever seen. But I remember the first meeting, even with not the network we're working with, but another one. They said, we've said no to 642 outdoor shows because they all suck. Why are you different? And that was that's the opening. Not how are you? Not good morning. Not thanks for jumping on the call. Nothing like that. That's what people, and that's how they perceive our industry too. And I'm like, we make up 3% of the GDP, which is more than oil. So this is worth hearing. You know what I mean? And this is worth talking about, because if we lose this, we're in big trouble. I said, if you like, species sustainability efforts, if you like fish stocking, if you like having national parks, if you like having all these things, they will go away. Go away.
Oh, I think Kyle just went away. That's okay because we got to take a break here. We're talking to Kyle Green of the Greenway Outdoors TV show. The greenwayoutdoors.com is the website, greenwayoutdoors.com. Now, or soon to be, on the History Channel, and there is a big event coming up to celebrate that. More details after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Sheboygan on Big Country Gold, WCBY. That's 1240 AM, 100.7 FM. You can hear us in Flint on Sports Extra, 1330 WTRX. And you can hear us north of the bridge in, Marquette, WDMJ, 1320 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Rapid River Knives. Do I have to prove it again? All right, I will. That's the sound of my Rapid River knife opening. I carry it in my pocket every day, all day. I think it's a great tool. But the thing I really like about this is a handmade piece of art made by craftsmen in the Upper Peninsula at the Rapid River Factory. The Rapid River Factory and showroom is on US 2 just east of Rapid River. I would encourage you to stop by there and check it out. The knives are, of course, impressive. They make pocket knives, folders like I have in my pocket right now, fillet knives, skinning knives, hatchets, axes, kitchen knives. But the mounts in the showroom are just absolutely spectacular. It is a destination. But if you can't make it there, go to the website rapidriverknifeworks.us, rapidriverknifeworks.us, and you will see what I mean. I'm talking right now with a very impressive, I'm going to call him a young guy. Very impressive. His name is Kyle Green of Greenway Outdoors, the website, thegreenwayoutdoors.com, thegreenwayoutdoors.com. After 680 no's, they got a yes. But not just any yes. Not just from Sportsman Channel, not just from Outdoor Channel, from History Channel. Starting in September, their show is going to be on the History Channel. Now, you know what else is on History Channel. Mountain Men, Alone, Duck Dynasty, the big boys. Well, Kyle Green and crew can now call themselves the big boys. Kyle, you made a comment, a statement here before the break about when you were talking with, I don't know who it was, Outdoor Channel or whatever, in their snarky way, as they often do, said, okay, so how are you different, Kyle Green? What was the answer? How are you different?
The answer was what set us apart in the marketplace was our production quality, and that I felt as though no one could touch what we've done, not even National Geographic or any of the other guys. Our age, obviously we're a young group. The youngest guy on the team is only 22 years old, so he started with us when he was 16. And then on top of that, we've built the perfect formula to reach the Millennial and Generation Z audience, and that's covering the conservation of the species, decriminalizing the hunt, explaining the background of the conservation, explaining what the future looks like of the conservation, getting people to understand that by hunting or fishing for this animal, the conservation is going to actually help that animal survive longer and create more on the landscape. So decriminalizing the hunt with real information. Number two, we covered the gear that they're going to need for the hunting or fishing trip. A lot of people that want to get involved in it are like, don't even know where to begin. So in a really organic way, we really tie that into the show and with our online content as well. And then lastly, the most two important things to Millennials and Generation Z content-wise is reality show content and cooking content. So we show you the hunting or fishing trip in a reality show style format, which was very easy because that's just me and my best friends traveling the world. So that's not hard. And then we have a beautiful cooking studio in Auburn Hills, Michigan, where we show you how to cook what we get every single trip. So we're covering that A to Z. So that is, we felt, the perfect formula, everything that the Millennials and Generation Z would look for as far as being entertained by outdoor content, but also wanting to get involved in it. And that was my hook for them.
traveling the world on hunting and fishing adventures with your buddies and then sharing those stories either online or on a TV screen, that's a pretty nice gig, Kyle.
It sure is now. It's funny, too. We were talking, we work with Boss Shot Shells, and we were leaving their place yesterday, and it was really cool seeing how all the shotgun shells were made, and the people over there are just so kind, and they care so much about the product. They're a lot like us. And we get that comment a lot. People are like, oh, you guys are lucky. That must feel good. I said, well, 4 years ago when we were kicked out of a building because we couldn't afford rent and our lights were shut off, things weren't always like this. You know what I mean? And the thing is, the group that's with me, AJ, Ryan, Jeffrey, they've been with me since day one. And they've no matter what we've gone through, no matter how far we've been set back, no matter how far we pushed down, we walked around like we were 100% positive that this day would come. And now we get to reap the benefits. But, for all the kids out there and stuff that also want to chase something, no, it's not going to be easy. And you're going to get kicked in the face. And there'll be a time where, like, even your parents, everyone will come to you and say, this is not the right move. You're dying. You can't do this. You just have to believe and keep pushing forward. And sometimes it's not about, like, well, how am I going to get to where I need to be? How am I going to get to History Channel? How am I going to get there? You don't always know the exact path, but you can always take one more step. And that's the only advice that I can give is the team, surround yourself with people you love that would take a bullet for you. There's nothing we wouldn't do for each other, and then always just take one more step. And then eventually God will give in and give you what you need.
So what role does the harvest play in your shows? Do you have to kill something to have a show?
You know what? I love that question, Mike, and that is a Mike Avery question if I've ever heard one. For us, yes and no. So for our television show, we want the interest to be there for people to see the A to Z, and that cooking part matters. So for the History Channel episodes, we filmed 12 and it's down to 10 because of the failures that were in there. That story and those content and stuff will still be used online. But as far as making a History Channel show, I cannot fail. But that doesn't mean you bend the rules. That doesn't mean you make the mistakes that other people have in the past. It's just you got to be willing to wake up early. And that is like another piece of the journey is like I've set us up to have difficult times all the time. When we're trying to build the business, it's hard. When we try and go out and film, it's hard. When we're hunting and fishing, we pick the hardest things, and you have to succeed. And that's why it takes that team of like, just ridiculous faith and work ethic to accomplish that. Because, we kind of do need to succeed.
You've mentioned online distribution or online content a couple of times. What role does that play these days, Kyle? Can somebody be successful in the communication business without having a strong presence online?
No, I don't know how you would. I don't know how you would. Because it's the talking platform now, right? It's how you communicate with people. The online content and online as far as social media is websites, and they're always changing, right? The algorithms and the TikToks and the Instagram and the shorts. I will say, for any advice I can give, is that shorts are the most valuable thing you can create right now for those people who are interested in that sort of thing. But building that online presence and having organic interaction is always going to be extremely important to sponsors, to partners, to networks. And our online engagement was one of the reasons why we were able to secure, History Channel, because that's very attractive to them.
Okay, we've talked about, this huge event coming up in September with your shows hitting the History Channel, but there's a little party ahead of time too. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so there's going to be a premiere party wild game dinner, and I am so excited about this. And I'll tell you, I've been to a million wild game dinners. You have too. And I've taken all the best pieces I could find from each one and tried to make this the best value anybody could ever get from a wild game dinner. And I'll be completely honest with you, our cost just on the food alone per person is upwards of $40. And I did that because I wanted it to be the absolute best wild game menu people have had. We have an elk carving station, so you can go up and have a huge piece of elk cut off for you. We've got bear chili, we've got caribou, we've got rabbit, we've got pheasant, we've got all these, and 5-star dining, like beautiful recipes like you would see in the show, not just, this casserole or that or anything else. We're talking beautiful, pristine recipes that are going to be incredible. And it's going to be at Bass Pro Shops in Auburn Hills. So they're going to be clearing out Bass Pro. And it's going to be in the middle of the Fall Hunt Classic, which is a big, that's their Black Friday, So on that Saturday, August 26th, it's their Black Friday. Huge wild game dinner. The prizes we're giving away are the biggest I've ever seen at a wild game dinner. One of the packages alone that you just buy raffle tickets for, no silent auction, no nothing. You can just win with a $1 ticket. It's a $400 deer blind, a $300 trail camera, an $1,100 rifle, a $400 scope, an Onyx year-long membership, and the best swivel chair you've ever sat in, all in one package. And there's like 6 or 7 of those packages that are that big. We've got live music from the Gasoline Gypsies, which is one of my favorite bands, and we use a lot of their music in the show for History Channel. And then on top of that, AMC Theaters is going to be playing 2 episodes of The Greenway Outdoors on History Channel on the big screen. And there's also going to be some exclusive content shown there, too. So come out, come have the best wild game dinner of your life, win some incredible prizes, see some live music, and then get to go in the theater and see genuine hunting and fishing content that is just going to blow your mind on the big screen.
Kyle, do you do anything half-hearted?
Never. I half-heart sleep. I half-heart sleep. I'll tell you that.
So is this this big party at Bass Pro on the 26th, is this open to the public, only your partners, or what?
The public, yeah. I think there's something like 65 tickets left for people that they can buy them right now. So if you go to the Greenway Outdoors on Facebook, Instagram, anything like that, the Greenway Outdoors, you can buy tickets right there, and you can pick your seat. I built this really cool platform where you can go on and pick out what seat you want and where you want to sit, how close you want to be to the stage, and that sort of thing, all right there in the app, and you can buy it right there.
Very impressive what you have accomplished. Again, the details on when the show hits the History Channel?
September 2nd at 9 a.m., and I would say Eastern Standard Time, but the weird thing is about the way the bigger networks work is it sounds like it's 9 a.m. Eastern, it sounds like it's 9 a.m. Central, and 9 a.m. Pacific Standard, but check your local listings.
Well, something to look forward to, that's for sure. Again, congrats on your success. I think what you've accomplished is very impressive. I like the way you approach things. I like the work ethic. I mean, come on, 680 no's before something happens, but good is rewarded. You guys are doing a great job, and I don't know you personally, Kyle, but I got to be honest, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of what you guys have accomplished. Keep up the good work.
Thank you so much. Thank you for planting the seed.
Hey, well, that's my pleasure. If I can take any credit for that, I will certainly do that. Kyle Green of the Greenway Outdoors, the website, thegreenwayoutdoors.com, thegreenwayoutdoors.com. Very, very impressive. We'll take a break here. This is kind of becoming the Green Hour because we go from Kyle Green of the Greenway Outdoors to Nick Green of MUCC. We'll see what's up in his mind. We've got to follow up on this cut in funding to schools for anybody who talks about guns or shooting or hunting. We're going the wrong direction, my friends. And then we'll wrap up the hour with this week's Ask Avery segment, coming up in hour 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in on the twist. There we go. You got a bad slider there on the board. Yeah, you can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Houghton Lake on the Twister 92.1 WTWS. You can hear us in Holland on WHTC. That's 1450 AM, 99.7 FM. And you can hear us, let's go north one more time. Let's go to Manistee, WTIQ, 1490 AM, 95.3 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by VersaSkins. We had Paul Pirone, VersaSkins owner, on in the first hour talking about the fact that they're going to be at booth 317 at the Woods and Water Outdoor Show the weekend after Labor Day weekend. Their website, versaskins.com. That's versaskins.com. Just change your skin for the season you're in, versaskins.com. All right, we had Kyle Green on a minute ago. Let's go to Nick Green. Nick Green of MUCC, Michigan United Conservation Clubs. We had Amy Trotter, Executive Director of MUCC, on Wednesday Night Live about a week and a half ago. She does a wonderful job. She's just so good. Nick, I appreciate you setting that up, and thanks for making that happen.
Yeah, no problem. It was great to be a part of, and as always, Amy does a wonderful job at answering questions spanning the gamut. So we're excited to be a part of that, and thank you for allowing us to do that.
Well, that is my pleasure. Nick, what's going on in your world right now? I have an idea of what I think might be a topic of discussion, but let's see what you've got.
Yeah, we on Friday, August 11th, we had our charity shoot. So that was a big deal for Michigan United Conservation Clubs. That goes to our youth camp and really helps support the work we do educationally for youth across Michigan, whether it's hunter safety education or down at our youth camp in Chelsea. So that was exciting, one of our big fundraisers for the year. And now we're kind of looking towards the legislature coming back. After the Labor Day holiday, they'll be back and looking to work through some legislation, and we're really hoping to get our commercial guiding, get our commercial fishing across the finish line here. So lots going on. Our on-the-ground program is in full swing. We have 6 to 8 projects left here through the rest of late summer and fall. Those include tree planting projects, pollinator plantings, putting up wood duck boxes. So just a lot going on. You can find out everything at MUCC.org.
You talk about hunter education. We've got to talk about this continuing situation coming out of Washington with funding being stopped potentially for schools that offer hunter education, archery in the schools, trap shooting associated with the schools. Now it's starting to hit home. Like my grandson Carter shoots trap for the local high school. To think that he wouldn't be able to do that going into his junior year, it's heartbreaking. But beyond that, I mean, I see this as an assault, a blatant assault on our way of life.
It's caught a lot of us in the conservation community by surprise. And to give a little more context, this is an interpretation from the Biden administration that is relying on an amendment that happened after some shootings that was really a bipartisan amendment to some safer schools legislation. And it's being interpreted in a way that it was never meant to be. That's kind of the long story short. And there are folks on both sides of the aisle, Democrats and Republicans, in high places working to correct this. What we have heard kind of unofficially is that this is the Department of Education's interpretation, and they are reaffirming that. They're not backing down. So, I don't know what type of pressure this is going to take. I don't know exactly what we need to happen right now, but there is a lot of grass tops involvement. So MUCC, our counterparts throughout the United States, are trying to work at kind of high levels to talk with the Department of Education, talk with the Biden administration, talk with the organizations who have those contacts to make sure, the story of your grandson are being told. The story of the kids who, they join these programs because they aren't into traditional team sports. And these are team sports, but they're just not maybe basketball or football. So, we all realize the benefit that hunter safety, archery in the schools, all of this have, not only to character building, life skills they carry forever, but just building a stronger next generation, a stronger kind of culture of conservationists, hunters, trappers. So, it's something we're working on. It's something we don't unfortunately have a lot of definite answer right now, but
Sure.
We're continuing to work on it, and we'll keep you updated.
Well, and I appreciate that, and I think boy, if this was happening at the state level, which it couldn't, but a state level a situation, boy, you guys could be all over it because you are so plugged into Lansing, you are so plugged into the DNR, so plugged into the legislature. That would be a different world because you guys have a handle on that, and you are a well-respected voice in Lansing. There's no doubt about that.
We appreciate that, Mike. We're going to continue to work with the DNR too. This has great implications for them in their work with National Archery in the Schools programs, and so there's just a lot that's going to happen here, and we're going to continue to wait and see.
All right, Nick, I will be patiently, or trying to be waiting patiently to see what you guys come up with. In the meantime, send people to the website, MUCC.org, MUCC.org. Thanks, Nick. Keep up the good work. We'll talk again.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, we'll take a break here on the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, this week's Ask Avery segment, I actually have, I don't know, 3, maybe 4 Ask Avery questions, and I got those in the Behind the Mic segment here from the radio studio before we started to record the show. I said, what do you want to get out of an Ask Avery segment for this week? And right away, boom, 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 boom. Good questions. I don't know if I will have some good answers, but I will do my best. And then coming up in hour number 3, I think we're going to try to be able to get in touch with Paul Schlafley. We weren't able last week because he was on the water way out. I think we're going to be able to do it this week. That's all coming up yet here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Houghton Lake on 98.5 WUPS. You can hear us in Muskegon on WKBZ 1090 AM, and you can hear us north of the bridge in Newberry on WNBY 1450 AM. The Ask Avery segment is brought to you each week by Security Credit Union. Security Credit Union loves to work with outdoorsmen and women, and they can help you with your next outdoor adventure. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. The way the Ask Avery segment works, this is your chance to get involved in the content of the show. I think the best way to get these questions to me is to send me an email to Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. That's Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. And you can send me a question that you want me to answer directly, or maybe you want me to pose to somebody, MUCC, DNR, something like that. This week, I came into the studio here without a specific question in mind, but what I did was I asked the folks who were joining me on the live stream, the Behind the Mic live stream here before we did the show, I said, hey, what do you want to hear answered as this week's Ask Avery question? And I had 3 folks who came up with, I think, were pretty good questions. First one, Tommy Accardo says, hey, how do you judge or age bucks on the hoof when they're still alive? And my initial response to Tommy, and I wasn't trying to be a jerk or trying to be flip, but I said, Tommy, I really don't care. I'm not an expert on that. It's not something that gets me excited like it does some people. But the more I thought about it, I thought, you know what, this is an interesting question, because do you have to know how old that buck is before you're going to pull the trigger? Are you that into it? And if you are, there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm not. But here's what I will say. I have no desire to shoot a 1.5-year-old buck. Over the course of my life, I've shot a few of them, and I don't care to shoot another one. However, if you want to, God bless you. And I mean that sincerely. If you want to, that's wonderful. Don't let somebody else dictate or mandate or shame you into not shooting it. It's a legal target. The DNR says you can take it. If you want to shoot a 1.5-year-old buck, go ahead. I choose not to. I think for me to harvest a buck at this point, it would have to be 2.5 or preferably 3.5. But I don't get hung up on such things. Second question from Craig Plowman, and these questions are kind of all over the place. He said, how do you control scent at a bear bait? Another interesting question, because you know what? I don't worry too much about scent at a bear bait, because the guide who has been baiting that bait for weeks comes in with a whole bunch of scent. So I don't worry about eliminating scent at a bear bait. What I want to do is minimize my scent. I want to keep the scent of the guide as the primary scent there. So what I will do, I will spray down with some kind of a spray before I go in. I don't even necessarily wear rubber boots. I will burn an earth scent thermocell pad to mask my scent, and I have been known during deer hunts to put in one of those little ozone generators in the blind. So I'm not worried about eliminating scent at a bear bait, but I do want to control my scent. Another side note on that, people say, oh, Avery, what you should do is bait with this or with this. Everybody's an expert on bear baiting, even though they've only done it once or twice. Why would you take a system that the guide has been using for weeks and then throw a monkey wrench into that. If the guy for weeks has been baiting with X, Y, and Z, why would you come in the first day of the hunt and spray anise oil around the place or do anything different? Don't add your little touch at the last minute. Go with what the guide has been doing for weeks to get the bears coming in there. Don't screw it up. Don't guide the guide is another way of looking at that. And then Paul Fournier comes in with a couple of questions. He says, Mike, do you think that baiting for whitetails will ever come back in the Lower Peninsula? He asked me what I thought. What I think is no, we're never going to see it. The powers that be in the DNR have decided that that is not something they want to deal with. It is not on their radar screen. It is not part of their discussions of implementing again. They're just not interested. I don't think we will see it. Second question from Paul. Mike, will we ever have a wolf or a moose hunt in Michigan? Yes, I believe we will have a wolf hunt here. It is certainly badly needed. It's not the DNRs against it. It's the feds and the courts and the antis and all that junk we got to work through. But I do believe we will have. And if we do have a wolf hunt, we need to have the trappers and we need to have the houndsmen involved this time. And that way we'll reach our quota. And finally, Avery, do you think we'll ever have a moose hunt in Michigan? No, I don't think so. Even though back in the mid-'80s, we were told by the DNR that we would have 1,000 moose in the UP by the year 2000, and we would be rewarded by a moose hunt. We didn't have 1,000 moose by the year 2000. It was a matter of brainworm. It was a matter of the moose did not establish and take off as the experts, as the biologists thought they would. So we never did reach that 1,000 animal quota. Now, could we have a very limited moose hunt right now with 1 or 2 animals, make it part of a pure Michigan hunt or something? Yeah, but I don't think we will have a moose hunt like we have an elk hunt. All right, thank you, Tom. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Craig. And thank you, Security Credit Union, for making each week's Ask Avery segment possible. Again, if you have a question, send me an email to Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com, Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. We'll take a break for the top of the hour. When we come back in hour number 3, our final hour, Paul Schlafley of Riverside Charters on fishing for salmon, fall steelhead, and more. And then Dixie Dave wraps it all up right here on Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polar Craft Boats, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Garber Chevrolet, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network, and so glad to have you along with us. I've been hearing from a lot of my buddies who've been over on Lake Michigan, primarily on Lake Michigan, fishing salmon. You know, you can catch salmon, well, I'm not going to say year-round, but most of the year round. But this is the time of year right now when your odds of getting a big fish are probably better than the rest of the year. If you don't have a big boat, your odds of reaching these fish are probably a little bit better because they're not necessarily out way offshore. They're coming in closer to shore, maybe even around the pier heads, maybe even the drowned river mouths. And there's just a lot of excitement. There are certain people, when I want to talk salmon fishing, there are a lot of people I could go to, but there are a handful of people that I reach out to on a regular basis because I have much respect. Paul Schlafley of Riverside Charters in Manistee is one of those guys. RiversideCharters.com, RiversideCharters.com. Paul has spent his life on the water. He started as a kid out there in Lake Michigan, and these days, many years later, he's still out there chasing those fish, and he's one of the most respected captains, in my opinion, on Lake Michigan. And we just managed to find him. I think we got him here between trips on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Paul, welcome back. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. Doing good.
Did we did we catch you between trips, Paul? Morning and an afternoon trip?
Yes, I had a morning. Yeah, I'm done today, with my morning trip, and I'm going to try to get out this afternoon, but we're having a lot of wind coming up. We've got a lot of bad weather coming in.
Yeah.
So it's kind of dampening a lot of things going on here. We've had a lot of winds this year, so a lot of north wind, and kind of lake's like a big mixing bowl been this whole season, really.
Yeah.
And the lake actually just flipped over yesterday. The lake turned upside down, and we got a lot of cold water right up on shore, so there's fish coming in now. And they're going to be coming into the rivers, a lot of them. So I don't know how long it'll last, because we got a lot of south wind coming back, so it'll probably be a little bit of short, little small push coming in. So some of the guys probably be able to catch some fish, in the inland lakes or rivers.
What do you mean by the water flipped over?
Well, we had a big north blow, and it just basically takes the water and turns, brings in the cold water from underneath and pushes all the warm water out into the lake. So we got like 50-degree water right on the surface, right up by the pier heads. So, and then, like down below, I got like 46 degrees, 20 foot down. So and that brings a lot of those fish right in. So they want to go right up the river. And head up the rivers. When we get a turnover like that, so a lot of fish will come in, and probably be some good fishing. Right, guys jigging and the river system itself, probably.
So it's a good thing when the water flips.
Well, I don't want it to, but the guys that want to fish the rivers or inland lakes, jiggers, and they want it to do that. So.
Yeah. And you don't want it to, because you want to extend the season as long as possible in the big lake, right? Or no?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
And we don't like seeing it, but it is what it is. Can't control weather.
Boy, if we could control the weather, we'd be doing something else, wouldn't we?
No, for sure. It's just every year it seems like it does it about this time of year. You get a roll over in the lake and fish will come in. You'll get a push of fish that come in, and so there's a pretty good push that came in. At least I did pretty good last night right at the pier heads. This morning, I just fished the pier heads, but the fish are coming in. It concentrates them right at front of the pier heads, so usually pretty good fishing. But then we got a lot of bad weather coming, and it's just fighting the weather. That's what it seems like this year, so can't control it. So.
Other than the weather this summer, how has the fishing been? What about numbers and what about size of fish, Paul?
Numbers, have been good. I mean, I think that they've actually been doing a little bit better south of us because of these north winds. Kind of messes our fishing up here. But overall, it's been a good season. I think the numbers are good. Seen a lot of different age class of salmon. We're catching a lot of 2- and 3-year-old kings and a lot of mature fish. I had a couple of weeks ago, I had a 31-pounder.
Wow.
So, that's my biggest so far. Caught number of kings, 25, 28 pounds, that size range. But there's been some good-sized fish caught.
Are these fish, like the ones you're getting around the pier heads, are they getting colored up? Are they starting to turn? Or are they still bright and silver?
Kind of both. I had both this morning. I had some bright chrome ones, and then I had some, dark ones. So it's kind of a mixture. I even had a nice brown last night. Caught a nice brown trout. There's a few cohos showing up. We've been getting kind of a mixed bag. Coho. We were getting quite a few steelhead out in the deeper water when we were fishing prior to this turnover in the lake. But the numbers definitely seem good. So it's going to be a good season.
It is, last week when we wanted to get in touch with you and we couldn't because you were out of cell signal, were you chasing steelhead offshore? Is that where you were at?
No, I was out like 300-400 foot. We were getting mainly kings, but we've been picking up a steelhead here and there. So I was out in deep water fishing. It was mostly salmon we were catching out there. So not really targeting steelhead, more targeting salmon.
Yep.
So you just catch whatever you get.
So when you're out in 300-400 feet of water and you've got some room to roam, how is that different than when you're up by the pier heads and everybody's congregated there? I feel like this time of year it can sometimes be like combat fishing.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? It can definitely be. It's a lot nicer to go out in that 300-400 foot and not have to deal with boat pressure. That's for sure. You know, you're definitely when you fish around the pier heads, you gotta be around people. So you know, it's just part of the game. If you want to fish there, a lot of people won't fish there. Sometimes it's the best game in town right there. You know, that's kind of why a lot of times I will fish there. And plus, you get a lot of big fish. Generally, you know, you're catching the big mature kings.
Yeah.
In there. So ones that are going up the river.
No, and I get it. I mean, you're in a numbers game. You got clients. They want to see fish. They want to see big fish. But when you get in there tight like that, you got. I would imagine you got to change your tactics. I mean, you're not running wire and copper way behind you in there tight, are you?
A lot of lead core. I run a lot of lead core, like short leads, you know, and then riggers and dipsies. Nothing real long. I mean, 3 colors, 4 colors, you know, at the most generally. So it's short leads, you know, and you gotta watch how you're fishing them. You can't. Sometimes when you get too bad of pressure, you know, a lot of times you can fish away from the pier heads too and catch them too. So you're not always tied right up into the pier head. But you start getting into that kind of boat pressure, sometimes you gotta eliminate them rods. It just depends on the pressure.
Yeah. Will boat traffic screw those fish up when they're in that shallow? Or they're starting to get of a mind where they're coming in regardless right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's both. I mean, sometimes when you got a big number of fish coming in, I mean, you know, boat pressure doesn't help, that's for sure. But it seems like you can still catch them when it's busy like that, especially when big numbers come in. You know, and we had a pretty good push last night. It came in, and there was a lot of boats, but it was pretty good fishing. And some of the guys did good, you know, kind of down the shoreline too. So a lot of times you don't have to fish right in all that boat pressure. You can kind of go down the shoreline a little bit in shallow water and catch them. But, yeah, it's just boat pressure is never good, but it is what it is there at the harbor.
If I was walking on the dock right now and I saw the back of your boat, would I see more body baits now than spoons?
I've been running a lot of plugs, catching a lot of fish on plugs, and but a lot of spoons. Spoons have been good, and you know, kind of flashers and flies too. Still, I mean, I kind of run on all 3 of them really. So some days they want one more than another. You know, like this morning I was catching most of them on spoons, but plugs definitely were good this time of year, real good.
Why is that?
That's a question I couldn't tell you. You know, I mean, you know, in the springtime we don't seem to do as good on the plugs, but it seems like always around end of July plugs start producing, and I don't know. You know, it's just one of the things it's always been that way.
Yeah. Well,
as long as I remember.
Hey, some things you don't have to know the reason why. You just know that they work, right?
Exactly. I don't know if it's just the action of them and makes them angry or you know, it's hard to say, but if I knew the answer, I've never heard anybody tell me an answer why they hit plugs, you know, on spoons more in the spring and you know, this time of year we get a lot of them on plugs. I don't know.
And if they gave you an answer, Paul, they might just be pulling it out of their ear anyway, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, it might be a aggression thing, the plug this time of year. You know, it's not, you know, who knows?
Yeah. Hang tight, Paul. Listen, we're talking with Paul Schlafley, Captain Paul Schlafley of Riverside Charters in Manistee. His website, riversidecharters.com. riversidecharters.com. We've got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, I want to talk to Paul a little bit more about, you know, fishing for kings this time of year. How do you catch them? You know, where do you start? And then we'll see how the conversation goes. If we have time, we might talk about a little river fishing as well with Captain Paul Schlafley of Riverside Charters, riversidecharters.com. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Sandusky on WMIC. at 660 AM, 95.3 FM. You can hear us in St. Joe on WSJM, 94.9 FM. And you can hear us in Manistee on WMLQ, 97.7 FM. Manistee, the home of Captain Paul Schlafley of Riverside Charters, riversidecharters.com. He's on the phone line with us now. Paul, you got to be exhausted this time of year, aren't you?
Oh, yeah. August is, it's the grind in August. Doubles, every day booked, and usually lose some trips because of weather for sure. But, yeah, it's definitely, the older I get, the harder it gets. So it's my younger days, it wasn't as bad, but, I'm pushing 60 now, so I'm starting to feel it more. But
and you don't fish with a mate. You don't fish with a mate, do you?
I do nowadays, yeah. I do more now. So it's a lot easier. So it takes some of the work off me. But no, for years I didn't. I never ran a mate for a long time, for many years. But nowadays it's a lot nicer having a mate.
Sure.
You catch more fish, generally. It's a lot easier, especially if you got a good mate. So, and I got two pretty good mates, so works all good. And I got a captain that helps me run the boat too, so it gives me a break. Some trips I'll have him run, trips for me, so it works all good.
Is that how you broke into this whole business, working as a first mate when you were a kid for other guys?
I personally didn't. I made it a little bit, but I kind of grew up. I started right out, fishing my own boat, and kind of I never really made it for anybody. But no, I kind of started right out in my own boat when I was young. So I grew up around the fishing, so I was always fishing every day. At the motel, my dad owned a motel there, and I was right in a perfect spot, and it just fell, kind of fell into it. So it worked out great. I wouldn't trade a thing.
So how old were you then when you started running your own trips, when you got your license?
I got my license when I was 18.
Wow.
So I started right out of high school. Yeah, so it's all I've ever done. I mean, I did some other, I did taxidermy on the side. I did the side stuff just to, fill in the, slow times, and ran the motel. I had the motel. My dad, I bought that from him. I had that for a few years until it got too much. But I always guided was my main, fishing was always my main thing, so still doing it.
Well,
always my love.
Well, speaking of slow times, I mean, so you've been doing this a long time now. How does a guy, or how did you make it through as a full-time captain during, say, the salmon crash, when things really went south? How did you get through that?
Well, it was right when that all went down. I had the motel, so I was buying a motel, and I had that, so I was dealing with that, and it was them years were not good. It was like things were bad, and the fishery was in limbo. And I mean, they had really good steelhead fishing and trout fishing at that time, and so it kind of got us through it. But yeah, them were some tough years. And then it got good back in the late '90s. It picked up. So yeah, I was risking, my buying a motel. I was real nervous about it, but it all worked out. The fishing came back, and it's been pretty good since then. So the down years.
How would you describe?
BKD.
Yeah, BKD, bacterial kidney disease. How would you describe the fishery today, Paul? And in this, and kind of looking at the big picture here, how are we doing now?
From back, like in early 2000, I think the numbers were a lot better. We caught a lot more limits. It's harder. You won't catch 20, 30 fish the numbers like you used to. And now if you catch 15, 10 to 15, it's considered a pretty good day. So back then it was 20 to 30 fish a trip. And so I mean the numbers are definitely not what they used to be. I mean the size is good. I mean size of the fish seemed decent, and I'm back from then. I think the whole lake's got fish in it right now. I mean different ports are catching fish now, and it's kind of spread out more than what it used to be. Manistee, Ludington, and Frankfurt were the main ports for salmon. Now I think the fish are kind of spread out in different ports more because they're planted there. The plants are spread out from what I'm seeing. But
yeah. Well,
we don't get a lot of plants here, so we don't have. We get a lot of pressure here too. Though Ludington and Manistee and Frankfurt get a lot of fishing pressure.
Oh yeah.
And we could use some more plants in my eyes, but they're supposed to increase the plants, so that should help us, But
Well, and
good fishing.
And I'm thinking about, you say, okay, a 10-fish day. You get a 10-fish day with 15 to 20-pound fish. Man, that's sore arms. Yeah, that's sore arms. That's a lot of fillets. That's a lot of smiles. That's world-class fishing, even with 10 fish a day.
Exactly. I mean, it's still good fishing. And, if I can get 10 to 15 a trip, I mean, I'm going to try to catch more. But, if I can get that, everybody's, very rare you get somebody that's not happy with that. And if they aren't, then go with somebody else. But,
if they're not happy with that, you're not going to make them happy, Paul.
Exactly. So, but yeah, that's a great fishery, and there's a lot of fish around, and it's just there's all different species out there, and we're catching different size fish, and so it's a good fishery. That's for sure.
I think about guys like you who do this full time and have been doing it for a long time. I feel like you're in the people business as much as you are in the fishing business. I mean, I realize you got a lot of return people, but you're dealing with people maybe you've never met before, maybe they've never fished before, maybe they're coming out there and something bad is going on in their life, so they're coming out there with a bad attitude. I mean, you got to show people a good time regardless of what Mother Nature and the fish decide to throw at you.
Yeah, that's for sure. It's charter fishing isn't just catching fish. You gotta try to be a people person and show people a good time and it's and you're fighting the weather and there's a lot of things thrown in there than just going fishing. And you got to try to catch fish. So it's not as easy as what people think it is. People think, oh, you got it made until they fish with you a couple of days in a row, and then they're like, well,
yeah,
it's pretty hard.
Yeah. Well, and for that reason, then is it in some ways easier when you start fishing the river because you don't have to worry as much about blow days and such? Is it easier fishing the river than it is the big lake?
Yeah, it's you don't have to deal with the weather quite as much. The winds, the river. I only run one trip a day in the river, so I'm not killing myself like I am right now. And I mean, I could run doubles, but I had enough of it, doing doubles. But the river fishing is definitely a different feeling than fishing the big water for sure. But it's still got its challenges though. The big river, the river fishing, because a lot of times you got to deal with warm water and the fish aren't biting very good. If you got a warm, September, like fishing salmon, for instance, in September, and if it's warm and the water doesn't cool down, at least on the big Manistee, it can be tough fishing. So you're kind of dealing with different, weather conditions, high water, rain and can mess things up. So there's different conditions that mess, compared to the big water, the river, you get a lot of rain can mess up your fishing. So where rain doesn't really affect you in the big lake, but the wind does. So there's different circumstances for different different places you're fishing.
So are your early season river trips there for salmon, and then later on you switch over to steelhead?
Yep. Yeah, I usually do about a couple of 3 weeks of salmon and then switch to steelhead. Start fishing steelhead, and of course we catch steelhead throughout the whole winter and then into the spring. So steelhead season lasts quite a while. We'll start catching them at the end of September, early October. So that season, steelhead season, lasts quite a while. So catch them throughout the whole year, the rest of the year.
So are your salmon trips and your steelhead trips, are they similar? I mean, other than, the type of fish you're fishing for, is it similar tactics and techniques and areas, or is it like two completely different ball games?
Yeah, kind of steelhead you can target, say, for instance, steelhead will be laying behind the salmon when they start spawning. So you'll target the spots where the salmon are spawning, below them. And a lot of times that'll hold a lot of steelhead. And the salmon, they'll be pulled up in certain holes where there's not usually steelhead. I mean, there might be steelhead around them, but you fish a different technique generally for the salmon. I mean, there's a number of different ways you can fish them, but a lot of guys have their way, and I got my way. But like for salmon, I fish throwing sticks, thunder sticks, and fishing skeins, more out of skein spawn, skein under floats. Very effective for salmon. And a lot of guys will start fishing salmon when they start spawning with fly fishing or whatever up at the dam and stuff. So I usually stay away from that, but I usually start targeting steelhead when that starts to happen.
So do you like river salmon fishing or river steelhead fishing better?
I like them both. I like it. It's fun to catch them kings when they're there. So, I like to fish them kings for about 2-3 weeks. I love it, and then I'm about had enough of it and ready to start fishing steelhead the rest of the year, they're fun to catch until they start getting black.
Yeah.
Start dying, and it's time to be done with them. But, it's fun to catch them kings when they're in their fresh chrome and beautiful. That's the time I like catching them. Once they start turning and they start spawning, I'm over it.
I just think it's cool.
Get up on the beds.
I just think it's cool that after all these years, you still enjoy it. You still have fun with it. I know it's a grind. I know it's work. I know a lot of pressure, but you still love what you're doing most days, at least.
Yeah, you gotta love it. You gotta love it. You want to be doing it. It's definitely a love for it. So, but yeah, it's a lot of fun when you hook one of them fish and they go crazy. So them fish I had this morning were crazy in that cold water. They were just going nuts. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it does sound like a lot of fun, Paul. I would encourage people to go to your website, riversidecharters.com, riversidecharters.com, to see if you have, I don't know, you got any openings at all left for the big lake or for the river this fall?
Yeah, not much. A little bit of, I got, not a lot of salmon trips. I'm pretty well booked. I got some steelhead trips open in October, starting in November, but my salmon trips are pretty well filled up.
Well, there's a reason they're filled up.
If they call me, I can hook them up. Try to hook them up with a boat or something. I got guys I can refer them to.
Fair enough, Paul. I'm going to get out of your hair. I appreciate your time. Good fishing, and we'll talk again as you get closer into the river season. That's Captain Paul Schlafley of Riverside Charters, riversidecharters.com, out of Manistee and the Manistee River. Been doing this since he was 18 years old. So the guy knows his stuff. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. A few more things I want to talk about. Then we'll turn it over to wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar to help us wrap up this week's Outdoor Magazine show. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Ludington on News 97.98, 98.7 WLDN. You can hear us on the other side of the state, Tawas, the Sunrise side, on WIOS, 1480 AM, 106.9 FM. And you can hear us in Saginaw on WSGW AM and FM, that's 790 AM, 100.5 FM. I am in the studios of WSGW right now. But you know what I call it for these 3 hours, right? It's called the Outdoor Magazine Studio. And if you go to my social media feed, you can see I have a logo behind me that proves what I'm talking about. But I wouldn't be able to do the show today without Charlie Root in here with me. Charlie, nice job. Nice job. And since it is still nice out now, it's supposed to be really rotten tomorrow, but right now it's really nice. And even though we're not quite done, I see him. See him? You can hear him. Charlie, Charlie, Charlie. And there's no pitchforks or shovels or anything. So there is a friendly crowd. They are here to adore the man, the myth, the legend, Charlie Root. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Reeder Landscaping. Paul Reeder's going to be really mad now. He's like, Avery, you're supposed to be serious when you do those, and you're saying all that stuff about Charlie. Reeder Landscaping, take care of your property, lawn and property, because it's your nature and our nurture. Now, Reeder's great in projects, right? But they're also wonderful at maintenance work. And I'm thinking right now of late season mowing, early fall cleanup, pruning, trimming, looking down the road at snow removal. The Reeder guys were at our house, just this past week doing some spraying. I think I'm going to ask them if they'll deliver a load of black dirt too, topsoil. I could go over to the local home improvement store and buy a whole bunch of bags of it and probably spend more money and break my back. Or I could call Reader and say, hey, can you dump some topsoil right there so I can seed that area? I think that's the way I'm going to do it. So it's kind of a one-stop shop for all things lawn and property and outdoor projects. The website, readerlandscaping.com. That's readerlandscaping.com. You know, that conversation with Paul Schlafley, I find very interesting because it kind of gives you a little bit of an insight into what the world of a full-time, long-time fishing guide and charter captain is. Now, you say, what's the difference between a fishing guide and a charter captain? If I think of a fishing guide as a river guy or an inland lake guy, and as a charter captain as a big lake guy, but that's not really. There's nothing official about that forever at all. I mean, if you're taking people fishing on an inland lake or a river for money, you have to be a licensed charter captain. But these guys who are doing these two-a-days this time of year, I don't know how they do it. It's a lot of work, and it's a lot of mental pressure. Maybe not so much for a guy like Paul, who's been doing it for years, but these folks who are newer in the business and still trying to establish their clientele and establish their reputation and get their, can I say, confidence? There's a lot that goes into being a charter captain. I hear people say a lot, man, I love to fish. Hey, I love to fish too. They say, I love to fish. I'd like to be a tournament fisherman or a charter captain. I like to fish that much. Be careful what you wish for, because becoming a tournament fisherman or a charter captain might be a good way for you to lose your love of fishing. Because they're not what they seem to be from the outside once you get into them. And I know that just from talking to people. Personally, I have not been on the water in a week and a half. And it hurts. I'm jonesing. I think my angler quest misses me. I know I miss her. I was looking at a picture of her. I was looking at some video. But I think it's going to be a little bit before I get back out there again. In fact, my next trip might be a skinny water walleye trip, or maybe actually even a perch trip. Oh, what else is going on here? Normally, I would be up in White River, Ontario on a bear hunt right now. This year, I'm not going in the fall. I love my August bear hunts. And they call them fall trips as opposed to their Memorial Day springtime trips. There's nothing better to me than in mid-August when the walleye fishing is slowing down, and a lot of times we'll have hot dog days of summer, to make that 6-hour trip up into Ontario where it's cooler, go on a bear hunt. I love bear hunting. I will not be bear hunting in Michigan this year because I only put in for a point. I hope to be bear hunting next year in the Newberry area with the bear whisperer, Johnny Bowler. But we'll look forward to that. No Ontario August bear hunt for me this year because as you are hearing this show, it's 2 weeks, I think, until my daughter Shelby gets married. So pretty much everything right now, not everything, a lot of things right now revolving around that celebration and preparation of. So very excited for that. Oh, let's see. If you have a question for me, send me an email to mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. It can be an official Ask Avery question or just something, hey, you're looking for advice on a hunting guide, a fishing guide, a bear operation, an outfitter, whatever. I'm more than happy to help. If you're looking for, a lot of people say, hey, where do you go to get your charter captain's license? Questions like that, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. I am happy to help if I can. If I can't, I will try to point you in the right direction of somebody who might be able to help you out. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. I do not know what he has planned. I have put no stipulations on that. We will leave it up to him and his creative mind, and we'll find out after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine. So glad to have you along with us. My name is Mike Avery. I like to wrap up each week's show with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. The only time Dave has missed the show is when he was having a heart attack. But that's not true, because he was having a heart attack and he called in from the parking lot of the hospital. That's why when Dave wasn't on last week, I got worried. Dave's okay. Everything's fine. He just had a little situation he had to deal with. But David, I missed you last week. I'm glad you're back with us, buddy.
Oh, I missed the show too, Michael. That's good to be back.
So what do you have for us this week? Garpike?
I wish. I found out, I did some research, and I found out the only way to clean a garpike is with a pair of tin snips.
You know, I actually heard that. I had people, when they heard about that story, they told me the same thing, tin snips.
I would have never thought that. I guess I should have researched it before I tried to clean the darn thing.
I don't know, Dave. I figure if you got to work that hard for it, it's just not worth it.
I just wanted to taste a Michigan one.
Well, how about, listen, speaking of tasty fish and Michigan fish, what else you have for us?
Well, I got a grilled walleye, a citrus walleye in a basket. It's one of those baskets that you can, it's got hinges on it, wire hinges, and you can put stuff in it and then clamp the two handles down, and you can put delicate stuff on a barbecue, which this is going to be very delicate.
Yeah.
Did I explain that okay?
Yeah. No, when you said basket, I'm thinking, well, a basket with fries. No, I know exactly what you're saying, yeah.
Okay, so you can clamp them down and, hold things tight. So you need about a 2 to 3 pound walleye. You're going to skin it. I mean, you're not going to skin it. You're going to scale it real good and then kind of butterfly it, from the back out, clean it up nice. You need a couple of cups of smoking chips. You like to use apple. And another thing, if you like dill, get about 4 or 5 dill sprigs, and you can use that. I love this dish with dill. You need 1 pink grapefruit sliced thin, a couple of oranges sliced real thin, a lime and a lemon, the same thing, sliced real thin, half a stick of butter, and a little bit of salt and some fresh ground pepper, and a barbecue set on low. So what you're going to do is open this basket up. You're going to take the grapefruit on the bottom, sliced thin, and then oranges and lemon and lime, and then you're going to lay the fish down on it. You want to keep the fish confined to the edges of the basket. Then you're going to line on top. You're going to start with the lemon, lime, oranges, and then end up with the grapefruit on the top of that. So you got grapefruit top and bottom, and everything else and fish in the middle. You're going to grind fresh black pepper all over the fish on the inside. Put a couple of pats of butter in there. Seal it up real good. And then on the barbecue, you want to set pretty low because you want to do this long and slow. And you're going to put them smoking chips. You can put them in like a little basket you make out of aluminum foil. Or if you got one of the barbecues that have them tubes you can put your smoking chips in, I would recommend to do that because you don't want to set the chips on fire and get like a big fire in your barbecue. And it could take 30 minutes to do this. You're going to turn it about every 10 minutes or so. And it's going to get a little charred on the outside, and that fruit, you can eat it too. It's really, really good. We did this recipe for the show about maybe 20 years ago.
Yeah, I vaguely remember this one so far back. I vaguely remember it.
One of the first ones we did, I remember.
But I'm trying to think here, though. Pineapple and walleye. I don't know about that combination, Dave.
Oh, this was grapefruit.
Oh, grapefruit. Well, okay, but still grapefruit. And maybe it's because I don't like grapefruit. Maybe that's.
Oh, okay.
What about orange? Could you use orange slices?
A little flavor.
Could you use orange slices?
Yeah, you're going to use pink grapefruit, sweet, juicy oranges, a lemon, and a lime. You're going to slice them thin, and you're going to alternate layers. You're going to put a layer down,
okay.
Citrus, fish on top, more citrus on top of it, and then close the basket, and then put it on the barbecue.
Gotcha. Now, you mentioned smoking chips, too, like apple smoking chips. Could you you don't have to buy those, right? I mean, couldn't you, if you got an apple tree, old apple tree, couldn't you cut some saplings off and use those, or not really?
All you got to do is pick the more dead pieces of the bark off of it, and actually the small twigs would work good. And if you're using green apple, you wouldn't have to soak it because it's going to smoke anyways.
Gotcha.
But if you buy the smoking chips, you want to smoke them so they don't catch on fire right away.
Gotcha. Wonderful. All right. So listen, how's retirement going? I mean, we did get out fishing that one day. What else you been working on?
Oh, man, we got a modular coming, and we've been getting that ready. We got our foundation in and all of that and ready to roll. So this week, the two heads of our modular are coming.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, I'm glad to hear things are going well. We'll talk again next week, David.
Good luck fishing, Michael.
Well, my fishing's kind of on hold for a while, but I appreciate that. Wild game chef extraordinaire, Dixie Dave Minar, a big part of the Outdoor Magazine show, as are you. Why is that? Because if you weren't listening, there'd be no reason for me to do this show, and I would be very, very sad. If you would follow me on social media, I would appreciate that as well. The website, I realize the website is not social media, but the website's MikeAveryOutdoors.com, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I'm also quite active on Facebook, and also on Instagram, and a little bit on YouTube as well. Check out our Behind the Mic segments and our Wednesday night lives as well. The email address, Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I would love to hear from you, and I'll love to talk with you next week right here on Outdoor Magazine.